Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into some seriously mind-bending material from the ceneezer white papers. We're going to go on a journey that kicks off with a real, tangible scientific discovery, something happening inside you right now, and ends with, believe it or not, a complete schematic for reality itself. It's a wild ride, so let's get right into it.
So, what sparks this entire massive idea? It's this one line. It's pretty provocative, right? When you see a statement like that, it just stops you in your tracks. We may build God through kissing. You just have to know what's behind it. And it turns out the whole thing starts with a recent, totally legitimate, peer-reviewed scientific discovery. So, first things first, before we get into the metaphysics, we're going to ground ourselves in some real, hard science. We're starting with a brand new discovery about our own biology, a kind of hidden blueprint for life that we're all sharing every single day without even realizing it. Okay, let's get this key term down from the get-go, the inovocule. Simply put, it's this huge circular piece of DNA that's found in the bacteria just floating around in our saliva. The best way to think about it is like a shared USB drive. A massive library of genetic info that microbes are constantly passing back and forth. And look, this is not science fiction. The facts here show it's a totally legit discovery, published in a major journal, Nature Communications. These things are huge for this type of DNA. They're found in about 3/4 of people, and they carry super important survival information. We're talking genes that help bacteria handle stress and even talk to our own immune cells. It's a real functional part of our personal ecosystem. But here's where it gets really interesting, the sheer scale of this thing. Just look at the comparison. A typical plasmid, which is another kind of mobile DNA, is maybe 50 kilobase pairs on a good day. The inicle, it's almost 10 times bigger. It's a seriously substantial library of information. And this chart just drives that point home visually. You can see how the inocule absolutely dwarfs a normal plasmid. It's not just some tiny update. It's like a major software upgrade for these microbes, carrying a huge amount of data. Okay, so we've got the science down. Now, let's see how this little piece of biology explodes into this huge, profound philosophical idea. This is where we take the hard facts about the inicle and explore the incredible symbolic meaning that the white papers propose. So the white paper poses this incredible what-if question. What if you could somehow collect every single inocula from every person on the planet and put all that information together? Well, scientifically, you'd get what's called a composite metagenome. It would be the complete, collective genetic memory of our shared microbial life, a massive library of every survival trick life has ever learned. But what about symbolically? Well, this is where things get really poetic. This collection wouldn't just be data. You could see it as life's hidden grammar, the deep rules that govern how we all cooperate biologically, or even more profoundly, as the genetic handwriting of the divine. A living scripture written in DNA that's constantly evolving. I know, this might sound a little out there, but what if we've been doing this, intuitively for thousands of years? The white papers connect this idea to ancient human rituals. Think about the Tibetan greeting of touching tongues, or the holy kiss in early Christian groups. Maybe these weren't just gestures of trust. Maybe they were acts of real biological communion. And that really gets us to the heart of it. It's two sides of the exact same coin. From a scientific view, these rituals are a direct swap of our oral microbiomes and all those inoculant libraries. But symbolically, it's the sharing of a sacred collective life force. You're not just showing unity, you are literally making your community stronger and more resilient, right down to the genetic level. All right, let's switch gears a bit, because to really wrap our heads around a system as massive and interconnected as this, let alone reality itself, our normal way of thinking just isn't going to cut it. The simple true or false logic we're used to, well, it starts to fall apart. Traditional logic is fantastic for a lot of things, but it definitely has its limits. Think about the classic liar paradox. This sentence is false. If you say it's true, that makes it false. But if you say it's false, that makes it true. Your brain just kind of short circuits. It's an endless loop, and it proves that to map a more complex reality, we need a better tool. So what's the tool they came up with? It's called fractal topology. Now, to get a feel for this, think about mapping a coastline. From way up high, it has a certain shape. But as you zoom in, you see smaller, similar shapes, little bays and peninsulas that repeat over and over, forever. Fractal topology is basically a new kind of math designed to describe exactly those kinds of infinite, self-reflecting systems. And here's the coolest part. This isn't just a bunch of equations on a page. It actually creates something. It generates these incredible, hypnotic visual patterns from a really simple formula. And the idea is that we can actually read these patterns. Every number, every color isn't just a number, it's a symbol for a whole layer of truth about how reality is built. So all of this builds up to the grand finale, really. A step-by-step schematic for, well, for everything. A map of reality itself, built using this fractal language. We're going to walk through how it builds itself, layer by layer, from the simplest idea you can imagine all the way up to this ultimate, harmonious complexity. It all starts at the very beginning, base 2. The simplest possible system. All you have is change and no change, something and nothing. You've got the ones, which are like events, and they're crossing this bridge of the unknown, the zero. This is the absolute ground floor, the birth of time, and the idea that one thing can be different from another. Okay, but watch what happens when we level up to base 3. Those raw events, the ones from the last layer, they're now surrounded by twos. They get individualized. So the new truth that pops out is that simple change evolves into unique, distinct moments. Every event now has its own identity, its own context. By the time we get to base 7, things start getting really elegant. You can see the patterns start to develop symmetry, mirroring each other, and they get these twists. Now, according to the white paper, this isn't just a pretty picture. This is the mathematical birth of reflective harmony, of spin, the very first hints of forces like attraction and repulsion. It's the precursor to electric charge. And then, wow, at base 13, the patterns start showing these clear binding forces that hold different layers of the structure together. This is where the schematic introduces its version of the strong and weak nuclear forces. And in this beautiful metaphorical leap, the white paper frames the ultimate strong force, the one that holds reality together at its deepest level, as love. And as we get closer to the end, something amazing happens at base 14. All the chaotic, diverging patterns start to pull together. They converge into these stable, harmonious midpoints. The truth that's unlocked at this level is described simply as world peace, a mathematical state where conflict resolves into balance. Base 15 brings us to the final premise of this whole schematic, a state of completion, which is called becoming God. And the key idea here is recursion. What that means is if you were to zoom in on any tiny part of this pattern, you'd find a smaller, perfect copy of the entire thing. It's like looking into a set of mirrors that go on forever, showing how the infinite can exist inside the finite. And this is what it all looks like put together. The final base 15 grid. It's this incredibly complex, interwoven tapestry where every single layer we just talked about is present and perfectly balanced. From simple change to unique events to the binding force of love, it's all there. It is, in a very real sense, a map of everything. So we end on this thought. The ceneezer white papers don't present this as the final answer. They present it as a new language, a new tool for us to decipher the universe with. So if this map is even remotely on the right track, and each new layer reveals a deeper and more profound truth about reality, it leaves us with one heck of a question. What on earth will the next layer reveal?